Hi guys, my name is Shine. Pretty much grew up in Lawton, kind of been all over, but I always wound up back here. This was home. Uh, I want to start from where I can remember, which isn't when I really start to remember. I was about 13 or 14, but I do remember I was real young when my parents divorced. Um, my dad was in the military, so he was gone a lot. And that is kind of what made him and my mom split up. And then he just kind of vanished out of my life. Like I would visit him during the summers or Christmas break or fall break or something like that, but it wasn't ever consistent.
Did you ever hear from him in between those times that you remember?
Not that I remember. There'd be a lot of times, he'd be like, okay, I sent you a birthday present, I sent you Christmas presents. Well, I never got anything. So yeah. But when I was 13, my mom married this guy who obviously she was head over heels with if she married him. At first he was a good guy. Then he started to sexually molest me, and it was just little things that made me uncomfortable, and I was scared to bring it up to him because I was 13. So I'd just tell my mom, and she'd just be like, oh, it's nothing, it's nothing. Well, then something big happened, and I told her about it, and she didn't believe me. I was going to visit my dad in Germany for the summer, and the night before I left, that's when the something big happened, and I woke her up and told her, and she was like, no, he didn't. I don't know what you're talking about, type thing. So I went to Germany for the summer, stayed with my dad and my stepmom and my sister. I was scared to come home because
Did you tell your stepmom and your dad?
I did. About a couple days before I was supposed to come back home, I told them because I was scared to come home. Like, what if it got worse, I told my dad, he immediately called my mom. He was like, what's going on, type thing. And she's like, I don't believe her. Anyways, my dad made me start going to counseling, which I'm kind of thankful for because I think if I didn't, I would probably grow up to hate men, or most of them anyways. Anyways, back on track. So I wound up staying with my dad for 3 years because it took my mom that long to leave a man that she found out the truth. He was sexually molesting me.
Wow.
I don't know if she confronted him and he admitted it, or if she just finally believed me after me telling her my story over and over and over the months and years, But it took her 3 years to leave that man.
How did that make you feel? For 3 years, your mom's not listening to you, not believing you. Did you have any resentment?
Oh yeah, I felt like she didn't love me. She didn't care. She cared about this man over her daughter, Yeah, I had a lot of hate, resentment, almost every feeling you can name. I probably had it towards my mom for 3 years. So when I was 16, my dad was deployed back to back. My stepmom, me and her weren't getting along because I was trying to be a little rebel. So I came back to my mom, came back home. I forgave her for the wrong reasons and came home because I knew she would let me do what I want when I want, just to try to make up for things, It wasn't until a couple years ago that I actually really forgave her, I've been a mom for almost 13 years, but I just still had a little bit of resentment all these years. But now that I fully understand what forgiveness is and, the situation, and
Can you tell us what forgiveness is to you?
forgiveness to me is no matter how much a person puts you through something, you find it in your heart. You find a way to forgive them. You don't forget what they put you through or what they said or what they did, but you forgive them. And then you can't help but kind of be on the lookout for those signs again, you know? To me, that tells me that you haven't fully forgiven that person. So I'm still doing that with some people from my past. There's just some people that it's a little harder to forgive than others. So when I was 17, I dated this 26-year-old. I moved out of my mom's house, you know, moved in with him, wound up pregnant a couple of years later, or not even a couple of years, I think it was like a year later because I wasn't even 18 when my son was born. That was a very abusive relationship. It was my first serious relationship, so I didn't know what to expect, and at the time I just thought that was the norm. You know, physical abuse, verbal abuse, I thought that was normal.
Was you still going through counseling at this point?
I was not, no.
Did you stop when you come back with your mom?
Yeah, yeah. So I was with this guy for 3 years, and I was scared to stay and scared to leave, so I was kind of stuck. About 6 months after our son was born, though, I finally was like, you know, no, this isn't gonna happen. You know, you do what you want to me, but you're not gonna expose our son to anything, you know, that kind of thing.
Do you think that what had happened between you and your mom kind of helped you be a lot stronger in that situation, and as far as choosing your child over the person you was with?
Yeah, I do. I really do. Even to this day, there's not a person in the world that I would choose over my kids, whether my kids are right or wrong, you know? And I do feel that, you know, the decision my mom made to not believe me has really influenced me in that way. So I guess I can thank her for that part of it, you know? So I finally got the courage and strength to leave this man. And it was the best decision I ever made. Haven't heard from him since, really. So, you know, life is better.
So he doesn't have any contact with his
No.
son?
He doesn't, unfortunately. But, you know, my son knows that me and my husband and his sister and my mom and, you know, family, we all love him. You know, he knows my adult friends love him, which I'm thankful for because I feel like that kind of makes up for it. And I have told my son, you know, he asked why I don't like his dad. And I tell him, I'm like, you know, one day I will tell you the story when you're ready, but I don't think you're ready now. About 6 to 9 months ago, I finally told him, I said, if you ever have any questions about your dad or me and your dad's relationship, don't be afraid to ask. And he asked again, why do you not like my dad? Which I've never told my son, you can't like him.
Right.
You know, I'm just like, if you want to talk to him, that's fine, but I don't want to. So I always encouraged him to, you know, if he wants to talk to him or see him, let me know. I won't be happy about it, but I will do that for him. He finally asked me, you know, what did my dad do? And I said, well, one time he put a gun in my mouth. He said, I don't want to know anymore. I said, okay, if you ever have any more questions or want to know more later on, that's fine, you know. He hasn't asked me anything to this day. So I don't know if it scared him or if maybe he's just not ready. I mean, he's only 12, you know. What next? So after that, I moved back in with my mom.
Your oldest son, is he a protector? As far as, and not necessarily physically, but as far as very protective over you and his siblings?
He is over his sister. He's a big sweetheart.
Yeah.
But he's very emotional.
Yeah.
He's an emotional little boy. He is very protective over his sister, though.
Well, it kind of sounds like that you know, he's protected over you as well, and maybe that's the reason why he didn't want to know no more, is because you've always been there for him. Someone like that's done something to someone that he's loved and it's always been there for him, and
Yeah.
you know, that's all he needed to know, not to want to know anymore.
Yeah, that's true. So after I left him, I moved back in with my mom. I started going down a dark road. I don't know if I was depressed or I was just so exposed to that lifestyle of drugs and drinking and partying over the past 3 years that I just kept it going because it was contentment, you know, like I was fine with it. I was comfortable with it. So I started stripping. I was almost 18 when I started. Started doing drugs, you know, started partying more. I gave up my son to my mom. Not like legally paperwork stuff, but she mutually agreed to take him because I wasn't providing the type of environment that he needed. I hate that now that I look back on it. It took me a year to realize, what am I doing? You know, like I have a son. I need to go get my son and be a mom, be a family. So that's what I did. Haven't looked back since. You know, I have a lot of regret for things I put my son through at a young age, like not being around and missing his first, you know, milestones. I have a lot of, it hangs over my head. Let's just say that, you know. I've forgiven the man that put me through hell, but I haven't forgiven myself for some of the things I exposed him to or put him through, my son. Like I said, it's just recently that I fully forgave my mom. I thought I forgave her, but I realized no. When I really truly forgave her, I realized, wow, I didn't forgive her all those years ago. So now I'm married, have my son, and me and my husband have a daughter.
How long have you been married now?
What's 2020? This year will be 8 years. My husband was in a really bad motorcycle accident in 2011. He almost died. Long story short, he got kicked out of the military, medically retired. He's been disabled and retired since then. I'm his caregiver. It's hard, you know, it's really hard. There are days that I don't want to get out of bed, you know, there are days that I just want to give up. I want to walk away from my marriage because it's too stressful or it's too much or we fight too much or something, you know, like I'm a stay-at-home mom. He doesn't work because he's medically retired. So we spend a lot of time together, which I'm thankful for, but you know, sometimes we do need a little bit of time apart. Me and him have both started counseling because we're at a point in our marriage where we realize we're not happy, it's not working, but we want to get back on the same page, you know, that we were on. We want to make it work. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed about that.
Do you think that you not forgiving yourself yet has something to do with and has affected other relationships and stuff? Because, you know, just kind of through, you know, the process that I've kind of went through and stuff, and that was kind of the hardest thing to do, is to forgive yourself, especially when you look back at all the things that you've done. And it's so easy to forgive somebody else, you know, a lot of times, but you know, when you look at your actions, and it's kind of like, how did I do that, and how did I act like that?
Exactly.
How do you continue to fight that, and how do you continue to fight knowing that that's something that you need to do, you know, to fully heal, is to forgive yourself?
My kids have a lot to do with it. Like, they motivate me, they inspire me. But I was recently told, you know, God doesn't put you in situations you can't handle. And I'm not a big religious person, you know, but that's really stayed with me over probably about 7 or 8 months now. So I just, honestly, I wake up the next day hoping that it's progress, you know, hoping I'm one step closer to fully healing. That's just faith, you know, faith in my kids. That's what's kind of giving me the hope to move on so that I can fully forgive myself.
Well, just kind of seeing you, on social media and whatnot, I feel like you have one of the biggest hearts I've seen as far as, reaching out and opening your doors and opening your time and giving back. It's so amazing that, someone that's been through so much can, and still hasn't forgiven yourself, can still offer so much to so many people. What do you think it's going to take for you to forgive yourself?
I think it's gonna take time, just a little bit more time. I feel that I'm almost there. I mean, there are days that it hits me hard. I'm like, for some reason, I try not to think about the past, can't dwell on it, you can't change it. So why let it, ruin the present or the future? But there are days that it's in my mind. There are days where it hits me so hard, just everything, that I don't want to get up. I think about suicide, I just don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to do it. So battling those demons, on a daily basis. But I really just think it's going to take more time. I feel like the more relationships I build, the more I help people in the community or my friends or my family, helps me be one step closer. Because it's a feeling of contentment or contempt, makes you feel good. And I feel that is a big step in forgiving yourself.
So would you say that you almost feel like it's a duty of yours to help others? Do you feel like it's a responsibility? Because I know that's been kind of one of my biggest things. I feel like I've done wrong so many times, and it's time for me to start giving back and helping out. So it's like nothing makes me feel better than when I know that I've helped somebody else.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like you're the same person as far as how that goes.
Yeah. I've actually recently joining with the Lawton Animal Welfare to volunteer there. And I also have an interview to be a CASA volunteer, which is a person who is a voice for a foster child. Takes in all their interests and what's in their best interest and makes the best decision for them and goes to court for them and represents them. For some reason, that is very near and dear to my heart. I don't know if it's because I used to be a teacher assistant for kindergartners and I really developed a love for children then, or if it's kind of always been in me, I just never knew it, and I'm just now pursuing it. But I really think those two things are really gonna help me fully forgive myself. The more you help other people, it's an amazing feeling, I feel the same way. Like everything I've done in my past, I feel like I need to do something to make up for it. So
I used to have these thoughts that I remember when I was real young. I used to have these thoughts of I would take all the pain as long as no other kid had to feel that same pain. So like when I do, help the youth and people in those struggles, I kind of feel like I'm kind of living up to what I said as a child.
yes.
That you remember that pain that you went through, and if you can help in any way and you can prevent that pain and prevent someone else from that loneliness and that hurt, that's what you want to do.
Definitely. Yeah.
So how has Inspired Lawton been a part of your life since? I know that you're one of the admins in Inspired Lawton and you're very active there.
Yes, I try to be.
And it seems like you always have positive words and motivating words, and I just kind of feel like it's very, to hear a story like yours and for you to give so much to so many people. How does Inspire Lawton fit in there? How does?
I never heard of Inspire Lawton until I volunteered at a color run last year. I was like, what is Inspire Lawton? I met Travell, and I was like, okay, that sounds kind of cool. Checked out the page, decided to finally join it. That was one of the best decisions I ever made, because no matter what you're going through and how alone you feel, there is somebody in that group that can relate to you, that can feel you, that feels your pain. You just don't know it because you don't talk about it. You know what I mean? If you post about it, they'll reach out to you. They'll comment something, and then you're like, oh my gosh, you know, it's not just me. That's been, you know, one of the main reasons why I love Inspire Lawton. You know, I've posted a little bit here and there on my story a while ago, and people showed real emotion to it. Like, they connected, you know. There were some people, I never thought anybody else went through that, you know. I'm like, what woman would be crazy enough to put herself in those situations? But there are people who can relate, you know. Travell alone has helped me grow so much in the past 6 months. And I'm very thankful for that. I kind of feel like I mainly just want people to know why I'm so inspired, you know, with Inspire Lawton, with all the positive thoughts and stuff. I want people to know that it's okay to feel bad. It's okay to have an off day. It's okay to feel like you want to stay in bed or you just don't want to get up. But there are people out there who can help you get through that, you know, so just don't get stuck in that. You just have to be open-minded and talk about it, because you never know who else can relate to you, who's going through the same thing at the same time, you know, and you guys could help each other fight it.
That's right.
So,
What's the future look like for you?
the future, I hope it looks amazing. There's big changes coming. I can feel it. I'm doing a lot of research on self-help and self-therapy and all kinds of things. So there are going to be big changes coming for me. I just don't know what yet.
Well, keep us in touch.
I will.
Let us know what Inspire Lawton can do for you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Love y'all.